I introduced this segment with China-U.S. trade ties, but of course there's much more happening, especially between Korea and the U.S. as well, as we saw President Trump and President Moon Jae-in just sign a renegotiated free trade agreement. How much has the U.S. gained from that renegotiation of the KORUS FTA?
Well, it's good for the president because he accomplished something. This is the first agreement that they've actually finished, so he gets credit for that. It's not a huge change from the existing agreement. He got something on cars, something on steel, both of which he wanted. I think from the Koreans' point of view, they were relatively modest concessions, but net, it's good to have it done. It's good to have it in the rearview mirror, and expectations in Washington for these things these days are pretty low. As long as nothing bad happens, it's a good day, and so far this has been a good day.
Bill, we've got to be careful, though, I guess, in terms of whether we extrapolate the success or the goodwill when it comes to the renegotiated South Korean trade agreement to a potential similar kind of format being followed for talks with Japan, whether we're going to see a new NAFTA deal, and then, of course, the big one, the trade dispute with China. Is it too early to say that this signifies a conciliatory tone from the administration?
Definitely. They're not being conciliatory on the other items. I think China is the most difficult. We're in, I think, for a long-term economic Cold War there, which will produce a lot of collateral damage on both sides. It will call into question U.S. leadership, particularly in Asia. It's also very hard to build a coalition to deal with China when you're insulting all of your friends and allies, which is what we've been doing. The NAFTA outlook is a little bit brighter, I think. We'll see, over the next couple of days how far we get with Canada, which has turned out to be a difficult negotiation, but I wouldn't rule good news out there. Japan has, clearly does not want to enter into free trade agreement talks with us. They want us to rejoin TPA. I don't think they're going to be able to persuade us to do that in the short run, so I think they'll probably continue to bob and weave. Whether Trump will threaten them with something more besides steel tariffs, I don't know, but it's not a particularly positive outlook right now.
Yeah, you talk about the sowing of these irritants across traditional allies, right? To what extent do you think this, it's been called the diplomacy of disruption is actually destructive, and some of that goodwill really erodes to the point where, healthy or constructive negotiations can't take place?
Well, I think that's what's happening. If you want to build coalitions, they're doing everything backwards. And you need to build coalitions, particularly for China. And a lot of this is about China. TPP was about China. TTIP was about China. Our Europe negotiation is really about China. It's how to develop a strong rules-based system with rules about state-owned enterprises, intellectual property theft, things like that the Chinese will have to adhere to if they want to access that market. It's hard to do that when you're offending all the people that you want to bring into your coalition.